Ever wonder if the woman you trust most is actually a complete stranger? What if her loyalty, her affection, and even her respect are just a performance she puts on when you're around? Welcome back to Secrets Inside the Mind, and hit that subscribe button if you're new here. If you've ever felt like someone was just acting a part, smash that like button right now. Too many men confuse nice words for the actual truth and simple attention for real love, and the cost of that mistake is brutal. You end up with wasted time, broken trust, and years of your life that you can never get back. The harsh reality is that a person's character doesn't show itself in big romantic gestures or sweet flowery words. It shows itself when no one is watching, and when she doesn't actually need anything from you anymore. And here is the big secret. There are only two silent tests that cut through all the noise. These are two hidden signals that expose exactly who she really is beneath the surface. Once you learn how to spot them, you will never mistake someone's convenience for actual commitment again. We are going to break down those two tests right now, before you risk giving your heart to the wrong woman. As a psychologist and relationship coach, I have worked with countless men who gave years of their lives to women who looked perfect on the surface. But the truth always came out when they least expected it. Don't let that be your story. Hit subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one, and share your own experience in the comments. Have you ever trusted someone only to discover later it was just a performance? Because what I'm about to reveal will help you see past the act and recognize the real markers of character. But here is the crazy part. Men don't usually get destroyed by an obvious betrayal. They get softened up by comfort. You have been trained to read love by the easy metrics. Sweet words, affectionate gestures, and how smooth everything feels when life isn't throwing punches at you. That is why even very smart men still miss the truth. You are measuring the daily weather instead of the actual climate. You are grading her performance in ideal conditions and assuming that equals her character. It simply doesn't. Anyone can look good when the sun is shining, but that doesn't tell you how they will act when a storm hits. Here is the psychological trap. In comfort, anyone can perform. Attention is cheap when there is no friction. Affection is abundant when there is no cost. Even being accountable looks noble when nothing is really at stake. Those signals seduce you because they confirm exactly what you want to believe. You think, she's warm, we have a vibe, we're good. But warmth and vibes are just temporary states of mind, not permanent standards of character. And states can lie to you. This kind of impression management turns a lot of adults into part-time actors. We all curate our lives. We all polish our image. She might not even be doing it to be malicious. She is just human. When there is an audience, we all tighten up our behavior. But when the audience leaves, our defaults always return. Now this is where it gets interesting. The real way to read someone is never what she does when the moment is lovely. It is what she repeats when the moment is totally neutral. Comfort hides the truth, but silence reveals it. If you keep evaluating her by compliments, cuddles, and curated weekends, you will overvalue chemistry and undervalue character. Chemistry tells you how good the time is right now. Character tells you how safe your future is. The men who get blindsided are the ones who confuse relief with reliability. Relief feels like, finally, someone who gets me. Reliability sounds boring in comparison. It is about patterns, principles, and consistency, but that is what carries you when life tilts. So what should you actually look at? It isn't about debates, dramatic tests, or trap questions. Look for behavior in the spaces where there is no scoreboard, no likes, no eyes, and no immediate prize to win. When there is nothing to gain and no one to impress, people default back to who they really are. That is why I am going to give you two silent tests in just a moment. These are two places where her real baseline shows through without a speech, a selfie, or a performance. But before we go there, I need you to drop two habits that are sabotaging you. First, you have to stop treating suspicion and discernment like they are the same thing. You see, suspicion is really just fear looking for a reason to exist, but true discernment is wisdom gathering actual facts. Have you ever wondered if you're just being paranoid or if your gut is actually trying to save your life? You aren't supposed to be a private investigator. You're just a witness to what's happening right in front of you. If you're enjoying this so far, smash that like button so we can get this out to more people. Second, you've got to stop fighting over what people say and start looking at their track record. Think of words like a weather forecast, but patterns are the actual weather records. If what she says doesn't match what she does, always believe the history. Here is a mindset shift that will save you years of headache. Character isn't just a promise someone makes. It's a pattern that shows up when there's no audience and no reward. If she stays the same when nobody is looking and stays kind when you aren't providing anything for her, then you aren't just guessing anymore. You are finally seeing the real person. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Isn't this a bit cold? Isn't love supposed to be built on trust? Of course it is. But I'm talking about trust that's been earned through real, consistent evidence. I'm not telling you to become a cop and monitor her every move. I'm telling you to protect your own heart. You've probably already spent too much time and energy on illusions that cost you your peace of mind. You don't need to play games or set traps for a good woman. You just need to pay attention to what is already true when the cameras are off, and she doesn't owe you anything. But here's the crazy part that most guys completely miss when they start dating someone new. The plan is actually very simple. We are going to focus your attention on 2 quiet checkpoints and let the reality of the situation do the talking. No drama is needed, and no tricks are required, just a clear set of eyes. If she is the real deal, these moments will only make you respect her more. If she isn't, these moments will show you the mismatch before you waste years of your life that you can never get back. Let's get into the actual practice of this. The first silent test is something most men never even think to check: how she handles her freedom when she thinks no one is watching. This is where loyalty stops being an act and starts being a way of life. Before we dive into this next part, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. When most guys hear the word freedom, they think it's a gift. But in a relationship, freedom is actually the stage where people's masks finally fall off. Now this is where it gets interesting. The hard truth is that some people confuse freedom with permission. They look at moments when they aren't being watched as a chance to hunt for attention elsewhere. The issue isn't that she has her own space. The issue is what she chooses to do with that space. You see, loyalty isn't a piece of jewelry she puts on for a date night or a nice caption she writes on Instagram. Loyalty is either built into her soul or it's just a sticker she puts on to look good. The difference only shows up when the lights are out. In public, it's easy to look like the perfect partner, smiling, being affectionate, and telling her friends how great you are. That's just a performance. But when the door is shut, does she still live by those same rules? Or does she leave the door open just enough for some validation from another man to sneak in? Let me tell you about James to show you how this looks in real life. James is 43 and was finally getting back into the dating scene after a long time being single. He met a woman through friends who seemed perfect on paper. She was charming, sweet, and always talked about how much she valued him. When they were out together, she made him feel like the only man in the room. She'd hold his arm and laugh at all his jokes. But James was observant. He started noticing small changes whenever she was out with her girlfriends or traveling alone for work. Her phone would be tucked away faster. Conversations would end the moment he walked into the room. It seemed small, right? But then one night, he saw a message flash on her screen from another guy. It wasn't anything graphic, but it was enough to make him wonder why she felt the need to hide it. When he asked her about her weekend, she dodged the question and changed the subject, acting like everything was perfect. That's when it clicked for James. Her loyalty was bright when the spotlight was on her, but it started to flicker the second things got dark. Around him, she was totally polished. Which one of these behaviors surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments. When she's away from him, the cracks show. She isn't betraying him outright, but she's entertaining little doors she wouldn't want him to see. That's the point. True loyalty doesn't depend on being caught. It depends on whether she thinks your bond is sacred, even when it's easy to bend the rules. Now, let's zoom out. James's situation isn't rare. Most men never check the difference between public and private loyalty because they're too busy enjoying the show. They take the surface at face value and never ask if there's a code underneath it. But here is the raw test. Does she act the same when the world isn't watching? If she only performs loyalty when it helps her image, that isn't loyalty. It's just branding. If you're enjoying this so far, smash that like button so we know you're with us. This doesn't mean you should start spying or grilling her. That's just insecurity, not wisdom. What it does mean is paying attention to her baseline. How does she handle freedom? Does she treat commitment like a cage she escapes when unsupervised? Or a principle she honors regardless of the audience? One gives you stability, the other gives you delayed chaos. Men, you need to understand. Freedom doesn't create betrayal. It only exposes it. If betrayal is in her, freedom is the stage where it walks out. If integrity is in her, freedom becomes the proof. It's that simple. Don't complicate it. But here's the crazy part, and a positive way to look at it. The kind of woman worth building with doesn't see commitment as chains. She sees it as alignment with her own values. By the way, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. Whether you are in the room or 1,000 miles away, her behavior matches her words. You don't have to second guess or chase after reassurance. Her consistency is the reassurance. James walked away in clarity. That clarity saved him from years of confusion. You owe yourself that same standard. Observe her freedom with open eyes. If she protects what is sacred when no one is looking, you've found something rare. If not, you've got a warning. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Let's push deeper into this first test, because spotting how someone handles freedom isn't just about catching slips. It's about knowing the difference between a costume and a code. I call it loyalty on the outside versus loyalty on the inside. If you don't learn to tell them apart, you'll confuse a performance for a principle. Here's what I mean. Loyalty as an outfit is presentation. She puts it on when it's convenient, like when friends are watching, or when you are close enough to notice. She makes the right moves and says the right words. It looks good, but it's conditional. The moment the audience leaves, the outfit comes off. Her behavior shifts because her loyalty was about her reputation, not you. Now, loyalty as a code is different. A code is internal. It isn't about a show. It's about principle. She doesn't just wear loyalty, she lives it. She doesn't need people clapping to stay consistent. Her integrity isn't decided by the situation. It's anchored in her values. And that is what makes her so rare. Most people don't operate from a code. They operate based on context. They change their behavior to fit the room, instead of holding the room to their own standard. Think of it like this. A costume comes off when the crowd leaves, but a code stays on even in the dark. That is why this matters. A man who trusts the outfit will always be blindsided. Which part of this surprised you most? Drop it in the comments. If you want to stay safe in a relationship, you have to look for a woman who lives by a code. In psychology, there is a term for this: impression management. It basically means we all try to look our best when we know someone is watching. That is not evil. It is just human nature. But the real issue is when this act replaces who we really are. If her loyalty is just a performance to impress you, it will fade when nobody is looking. But if it is based on her own values, it won't matter if anyone sees it. She will treat your bond as sacred because of who she is, not because she is being graded. So how do you test this without going crazy? You do not need to interrogate her or spy on her. You just watch her consistency. Does she change depending on who is around? Does her tone shift when she is with friends versus when you are alone? Are her boundaries the same when you leave the room? Over time, consistency tells you everything. Now, this is where it gets interesting. A woman with a code does not worry about getting caught because she is not acting. She is just aligned. And when you find that, you stop worrying. You stop analyzing texts, looking for clues, or needing constant reassurance. Her actions give you peace. That is the kind of peace men rarely talk about but deeply want. By the way, if you are enjoying this, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you do not miss the next video. Now, do not settle for the outfit. Outfits fade, and they can be styled to impress. A code is permanent. It is chosen and proven by actions, not by applause. Remember this. Integrity is what you do when the door is closed. If she is solid there, she will be solid anywhere. If not, no public loyalty will protect you. But here is the crazy part. There is a second silent test that most men completely miss. It does not show up when you are her rock, her provider, or her support. It shows up the moment she realizes she does not need you anymore. That is when the mask either stays on because it is real, or falls off because she got what she wanted. Here is why this matters. Some women's kindness is tied to what they get from you. Their patience, affection, and respect are fueled by your help. As long as you are supporting her and fixing her problems, she is warm. But once she gets on her feet, once she is stable financially or emotionally, the temperature changes. You are no longer essential, and how she acts then tells you everything. Let me show you what I mean with a quick story. Michael is 51. After being single for years, he started dating a woman who seemed very grateful. She leaned on him emotionally, called him to vent after work, and looked to him for comfort. She also loved the stability he provided. He paid for dinners, helped her make decisions, and was a steady presence. Michael felt valued, and for a man his age, being needed felt good. For a man his age getting back into the dating world, feeling needed made him feel like he had a real purpose. But then, things shifted. Over a few months, she got a new job, reconnected with friends, and built her own savings. With her new independence, Michael noticed a change. Her tone got cold. She canceled plans. Conversations felt rushed. When he shared a boundary, she acted annoyed or got angry. The man who was her anchor was now just background noise. Michael did not explode. He just watched and realized her respect was only tied to her need. Think about this. When she needed him, she was incredibly kind. But the second she didn't, she became completely careless. That realization hits way harder than any breakup line ever could because it shows the truth. Her affection wasn't actually love, it was just convenience. This is the exact spot where so many guys get stuck. They hold on tight, praying that the old warmth will come back, and they start bargaining with themselves. You know how it goes. You tell yourself, maybe she's just having a rough week, or I'm probably just overthinking things. But let's be real. Denial doesn't change a pattern. If this resonates with you, go ahead and smash that like button. It really helps the channel out. What Michael learned, though it was painful, was very clear. The way a woman treats you when she no longer needs you is the sharpest mirror of her soul you'll ever find. It takes away all the fake incentives and shows you her real priorities. It reveals whether she actually valued you as a person or if she just liked the role you were playing in her life. But here's the crazy part. This isn't always a bad thing. In fact, it's the ultimate test of character. There are women out there who pass this test beautifully. They don't try to rewrite history just because their life situation changed. They don't turn cold or distant just because they've become more independent. Instead, they stay consistent. They might not need you to survive anymore, but they still respect you. They still appreciate everything you've built together. They treat your presence as a choice they're happy to make, not as some heavy burden they have to carry. That's what real grace looks like. That's true character. When you find a woman like that, you've found someone who loves you for your value, not because she's desperate for what you provide. Before we dive into the warning signs, make sure to hit subscribe and tap that bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into these relationship dynamics. So here is the big warning you need to remember. Watch the transition. Pay close attention to how she acts when that dependency disappears. If she throws kindness out the window the moment she doesn't need your help or your resources, you've just seen her true colors. But if she keeps that respect alive even when she's independent, you've found something incredibly rare. Don't ever confuse a temporary feeling of gratitude with permanent character. Gratitude can fade away, but character never does. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because life has a funny way of testing this for you. You have to ask yourself a tough question. Are you with someone who values your heart, or are they just in love with how useful you are? The answer is usually found in the silence right after her needs are satisfied. You don't have to set traps or play games to find out. Life will do the work for you. You just have to be smart enough to notice when it's happening. I'll leave you with this. The way she treats you when you're no longer necessary is the sharpest reflection of who she is deep down. Look into that reflection, because it's going to tell you way more about your future than any sweet text message or romantic date ever could. Let's really tie all of this together. Once you see how she handles her freedom, you get to see the final layer of clarity. It's the massive difference between love and convenience. This is where most guys get burned. It's not that they didn't see the red flags, it's that they totally misread them. Real love doesn't flip a switch just because the benefits change. If a woman truly respects you, she's going to respect you whether you're paying the bills or not. If she honors you, she'll do it whether you're her safety net or just her partner. Love keeps going, even when the external rewards start to fade. It doesn't get weak just because the perks are gone. That's what makes it real. On the other side, convenience is just transactional. It only works when you're being useful. It stays strong as long as you're checking boxes being the provider, the therapist, or the guy who rescues her. But once those roles aren't needed, the convenience dries up instantly. A woman who loved you for convenience isn't necessarily trying to be mean. She just doesn't have a use for the connection anymore. And that's the part that hurts the most. Realizing you weren't loved for who you are, but for the benefits you provided. The good news is, you can spot this without any drama. Just watch what happens when there's nothing left for her to gain. Does she still show you respect? Which part of this hit home for you? Drop a comment below and let me know. So, when you're not in a position to solve her problems, does she still treat you with warmth? When nobody is watching, does her attitude stay the same? Those are your real answers. You don't need drama or paranoia. You just need to pay attention. This is where smart men protect their peace, while others choose to suffer. You don't have to panic when her warmth fades the second things get inconvenient. You don't have to beg for a connection that was never real. You just have to accept the truth. It wasn't love. It was a transaction. Once you see that, you can walk away with clarity instead of confusion. Let's make this practical. Stop rewarding fake loyalty. Stop thinking public kindness means private commitment. Stop believing that temporary gratitude means devotion. Saying thank you is temporary. Values are forever. If you want lasting respect, you have to align with someone who lives by values, not someone who is just chasing benefits. But here's the crazy part that most guys miss. Perks can buy temporary affection, but only values keep respect alive. And respect is the oxygen of your relationship. Without it, the bond suffocates, no matter how much chemistry or history you share. So the real question isn't, does she love me now? The real question is, will she still honor me when she has nothing to gain? If she does, you found a woman with character deeper than her circumstances. If she doesn't, you just saved yourself years of wasted time. Either way, you win, because clarity is a victory. Now this is where it gets interesting. When you strip away the social media, the photos, the sweet words, and the weekend trips, everything comes down to two quiet tests. How does she handle her freedom when nobody is looking? And how does she treat you when she doesn't need you anymore? Those are the moments that show her true character, not the fake rehearsed ones. Because, let's be honest, anyone can pretend to be loyal when they're getting something out of it. Anyone can play nice when they need to lean on you. But real loyalty only shows up when there is no reward, no spotlight, and no incentive. That's when you find out if you were loved or just used. Now, Here is the trap you must avoid. This isn't about living in constant doubt. It is about living with wisdom. Doubt makes you paranoid, but wisdom makes you prepared. The difference is small, but it saves your life. A paranoid man chases ghosts. A wise man simply watches patterns and adjusts his investment. And that's what you owe yourself, investing in reality, not in a fantasy. If you're with a woman who passes both tests, treat her like the rare gift she is. A woman who protects your bond in silence and honors you in her independence is hard to find. That is gold. Don't take her for granted. Because in a world of temporary performances, finding consistency is the real prize. But if she fails these tests, don't waste your life negotiating with red flags. Don't beg someone to change who they are. Finding out the truth is painful, but it is merciful. It frees you to stop paying for staged loyalty and start building with someone who lives by values. Men, your peace depends on who you let close. Protect it like your future depends on it, because it does. If this gave you clarity, don't keep it to yourself. Hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and drop a comment about what resonated most. Keeping your eyes open is your shield, and wisdom is your weapon. Use both, and you'll never look at love the same way again.